All right, we are back with the final video for this first portrait. And I'm using a liner brush at the moment, and it looks like we're just continuing where we left off in the last video. I'm using a liner brush to give myself some details. As I was talking about before, when it comes time to details, you may be tempted to just go full on paint only, like add in like long eyelashes or like freckles or whatever. And we do have to do freckles on this painting, but as you notice, I haven't added any of the freckles yet. Anytime you do details at the very end, moles, freckles, eyelashes, whatever, you must make sure you put a lot of gloss glazing liquid into your paint. That is a huge must, and the reason why is you don't want to get to this point where everything is soft and it looks so natural and realistic, and then at the end you have these big like things that are just popping right off the face. If you want to play with that, just do a few portraits first that look a little bit more natural, and then you can play with that. Real quickly, her eyebrows. This is a great example. First, I created a soft glaze that was darker to emulate the shadow of the eyebrow. After that, then I started to add in a second layer. It looks like she colored her eyebrows like a reddish color, so I added that glaze in. After that dries, and later on I can go in with my detail paintbrush and a lot of gloss, a little bit of paint, and then add in the actual eyebrows. Did you notice too, as I was talking, I started working on the shirt, and by going over my grisaille, it's already starting to give the illusion that there's some curve to it. It's not refined, but I also added that yellow where it's reflecting up onto her skin. Since this shirt is very vibrant, it would give this illusion of reflecting onto her skin, especially if, depending on like the lighting or whatever. So I was able to add that color in there, and it really is starting to look more lifelike, even though it is kind of a stylized portrait. And I'm going in with just some that might be the local color. It looks like a cadmium orange. I'm just going in and popping out some of my highlights there by adding in the local color. Highlights can be, don't have to be white all the time. The brush I'm using at the moment is called a liner brush. And I'm using the liner brush to kind of dip down into the eye. And what I should have done before even doing this, to be completely honest with you, is before even adding in your eyelashes, you want to add in the eyelash reflections on the eyeball first. I'm not sure if I was just like, I may have been rushing this one because I wanted to make sure that I was able to. Sometimes I rush on a painting if I'm like tired and want to go to bed, to be completely honest. So I'll rush through a process and skip some things. But by skipping things, you kind of lose on the little details that really make a portrait look real. And one of the things that makes your portraits look real are the reflections in your eye. And what is being reflected, like eyelashes. So don't forget those little details if you want your portraits to look more realistic. Really analyze your reference photo and see the things that will separate your painting from someone else's. Okay, now what I'm doing is adding in some of the red directly onto it. And I'm kind of using this red and orange as as my neutral colors. Oh, here we go. Here comes my freckles. Here is the tip. I'm using my liner brush to add the freckles in, and then I'll use a mop brush to kind of blend them out a little bit. I said mop brush, but I think they're also called blender brushes, depending on like when you're searching for your materials. It could be either a mop brush or a blender brush. But anyhow, I added my freckles on at the very end. I think they could actually be darker in at the moment than they will be after this painting dries for a few days, because I tend to add a lot of gloss glaze, And one of the things that ends up happening, especially when you're filming on a video, is it appears to look a certain way on video, and then after it dries, it kind of blends, it kind of like settles, I guess. So it might look different. But at the moment, like, it does kind of look like those freckles are a little bit too dark, to be completely honest with you. I know that I would probably, if I am doing this, just in a different time. But I would make my freckles a little bit more transparent by adding more gloss glazing liquid. If you need to go darker, just make sure, if you want to go darker, you can. That's what I'm trying to say. But just make sure you go darker, like let it dry first and come back to it later. Okay, real fast, the hair. I think a lot of you are like, wait, when did the hair happen? I've kind of been working on it throughout by doing different layers of the hair at different points in time and then letting it dry. I added my cadmium orange, which really were the only highlights that I used. I think you use like white highlights. And then in the end, I kind of used a medium tone value, so like a toned out, or even just like a middle scale version of my cadmium orange, and then applied a lot of glazing, did a glazing layer on top of that to kind of blend in everything. And the final part of the painting, the exciting part, is when you remove your tape and it looks like a finished product. How exciting. We are coming up to the end of our first portrait, and hopefully you learned something in this first one. Trust me, after you watch all of them, you will know a lot of stuff. And here it is. Okay, everybody, I will see you in the second portrait, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll see you there. Bye.